In Material Master Detailed Explanation, Step number 10, MRP 4. The first topic under the MRP 4, Dependent Requirements Indicator for Individual and Collective Requirements. Indicator determining whether the following requirements are allowed for the dependent requirement of the material. So what is meant by independent requirement and collective requirements? So first we can start with dependent requirements. Requirement quantities of the dependent material are stated individually. Then the second type, collective requirements. Requirement quantity of the dependent material are grouped together. Then use. You can maintain this indicator in the following in the material master record. For the explosion type of the bill of material item, the settings for the explosion type overrides that in the material master record. The next topic in MRP 4, component scrap in percentage. Percentage of scrap that occur during production of the material if the material is a component. Use. Component scrap is used in material requirement planning to determine the quantities of components required. When exploding the bill of material, the system increases the required quantities of the components by the calculated scrap quantity. For example, requirement quantity is 200 pieces, component scrap, so we can take it 10%. So what is the scrap quantity? 20 pieces. So therefore 220 pieces are required. So the next topic in MRP 4, indicator for requirements grouping, defines whether the system groups together dependent requirements for the material on a daily basis when analyzing requirement planning. If you set this indicator, the display in the MRP list and stock requirement list is present as follows. If several dependent requirements are scheduled on one day, requirements have been grouped together. You can also expand the grouping in the MRP list and in the stock requirement list. Determine whether additional individual or dependent requirements are written for components whose assembly is set such that total dependent requirement are created. So the next topic, MRP relevancy for dependent requirements. This indicator controls whether dependent requirements are relevant to MRP or not. Dependent requirements include dependent reservations and stock transfer requirements. So what is the usage? You only use this indicator in connection with the planning strategies for make to stock production assembly planning. Note that the indicator dependent requirements not relevant to MRP should only be used when, for example, planned independent requirements exist for an assembly. In this case, no receipt elements for the dependent requirements in MRP should be created as receipt have already been created for the planned independent requirements. So the next one, production version. So what is meant by production version? Production version is a master data object in SAP that belongs to the production and production planning module. SAP production version is combination of a bill of material and a routing. Bill of materials consist of the components and the conception of those components which are required to manufacture a product. Routing of the material consists of the activities that need to be done to manufacture a product. For a given product, there can be different components that can be used to manufacture. When there are such substitute components, it is possible to create an alternate BOM in SAP systems. There can be multiple alternative BOMs for a given product, like multiple bill of materials. There can be a different method or task which can be used to manufacture a product. These different methods or sequence of activities can be maintained as alternative routings or routing groups. So SAP production version is used to group these different combinations of BOM and the routings, so that depending on the material availability and the resources, production can be carried out for those materials. Production versions can be maintained through the material master or using the production version mass maintenance transaction C223 in SAP S4 HANA. The production version is a mandatory PP master data. Let us look at how the SAP production version is created. So the next topic, discontinuation indicator, identifies the material as a part to be discontinued and includes it in the discontinued parts procedure in material planning. Usage: if this indicator is set, the system transfers the dependent requirements in material planning to the follow-up material if they are no longer covered by warehouse stocks. However, this requirements the part to be discontinued and the follow-up material to be planned using material requirement planning MRP. The second option, the base unit of measure follow-up material to be the same as that part to be discontinued. So important note, in subcontracting, uncovered requirements are not switched to the follow-up material after the effective out date. This is indicated. So the next topic, effective out date, date from which the stocks of the material are to be used up. As soon as no more stocks exist for this material, it is to be replaced by the follow-up material. Usage: from this date, the system reassigns the dependent requirement that are no longer covered by warehouse stock of the discontinued material to the follow-up material. This is done as a part of material requirement planning. So procedure: enter a date if you want to plan the discontinuation of a material for the longer term. So the next one is follow-up material. Number of the material that the system uses in material planning to replaces the material to be discontinued once its warehouse stock is depleted. Usage: in the material master record and also in the bill of material, you can define follow-up material for a material to be discontinued. The follow-up material defined in the bill of material as a higher priority than that in the material master record. Procedure: you must always specify a follow-up material in the material master record for the system to know a follow-up material if none has been specified in the bill of material. So the next one, repetitive manufacturing allowed. SAP repetitive manufacturing is one of the types of manufacturing process supported by SAP. For each industry, there is a manufacturing process that is more suitable than the other. Factors such as production rates, consumer demands, and product complexity have an influence when selecting the manufacturing process. The commonly used manufacturing process are discrete manufacturing, repetitive manufacturing. Third one is process manufacturing. So the next field, REM profile, repetitive manufacturing profile. REM profile is the key to a successful setup of REM in SAP. The REM profile controls the way how REM is carried out in the system. This can be set up by following the below SAP configuration path or using the transaction code OSPT. Existing REM profile can be changed from transaction code OSP2. So the next field, action control, planned order processing. This key is used for the function actions in the planned order and defines the sequence of the action that can be carried out for the planned order. So usage: using the function, an interface is provided to external assembly control systems. Thus, work progress on the assembly line as well as activities independent of the assembly line can be transferred to the SAP system via a standard interface or a customized interface. Using this function, one or more actions can be carried out for a large number of planned order in one step that if carried out online could only be carried out individually per planned order. Moreover, it is possible to carry out customer specific actions. In customizing the MRP, you use the action control to define which actions are followed and the sequence in which they are to be carried out. So an action may be, for example, explode BOM, check material availability, schedule planned order, and so on.